Hello and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny Show. Why is this show called this? You may ask, so I'll tell you. The accepting meaning of angel is destiny, and the accepting meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepting meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guest and I establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring, even when they trip my words up. But that's the angels for you. Now, in a moment, I'll introduce you to my wonderful guest, Laura West. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to me to connect with like minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I'm a guide who helps you to remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, create your future, and transform your present, to expand your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, and take charge of your destiny so you can spread your wings and soar. I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and through Divine Presence, I offer virtual and actual retreats, transformational packages, a 6-week guided meditation series for confidence, workshops, and so much more to remember why you are here, your spiritual path, and the clarity on the next steps to take. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation or angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Laura West, who's talking about spirituality and anxiety. Now, Laura is a registered nurse, energy healer, psychic medium, author, podcast host, and TV host dedicated to both the sciences and spirituality. She has taken part in multiple international spiritual summits, has talked about intuition on several virtual platforms to students from all over the world, contributed to both national and international journals and magazines, and has been invited as a guest on several podcasts, including mine previously, again, both nationally and internationally. She was the TV host of Life from the Other Side on the Everyday Woman TV network. Now she hosts her own podcast called A Guided Life, of which I've been on. And it's very good. She has also authored her book titled Guided. She is dedicated to spreading the word of love and teaching others how to communicate with their spirit guides through intuition. Now, with testimonials such as Laura, thank you for providing such a great reading. It really helped to bring peace to me and my grandma's. It was amazing how spot on you were. You have a true talent to help others. I can't wait for my next reading. And Laura is one of the kindest souls I've ever met. She has the natural gift of healing. Her intuitive abilities allow her to convey messages from my guides that I needed during a very transformational period in my life. Her strong connection to the spiritual world will continue to help others in ways that truly bless your soul. So, without further delay, hello, Laura, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
Hi, Ray. Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing well today. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's great to have you back. Now, before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Laura and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. And we're not offering readings today, although obviously I will be pulling an Angel Oracle card at the end of the show, or doing a mini guided meditation, whichever Laura directs us to do. So, Laura, why don't you tell us more about your journey and how about the spirits are able and willing to help us with anxiety?
Yes. So my spiritual journey, and I think I shared a lot of this before. So I do apologize if your guests have already heard this, but um, my spiritual journey really began at a young age because I do recall having these thoughts as a child that I didn't really get from anywhere, but I didn't think much of it. For instance, I remember having a dream as a child and waking up and thinking, "Gosh, did I live that life before?" without having really been taught about reincarnation and things like that. And then in my teenage years, I had a couple of really profound dreams that I knew to be visitations. Again, before this was before my spiritual awakening, and I had one profound dream where Jesus visited me and asked me to spread his word, and I told him I would try. And then I had another dream where my grandmother visited me in that dream. She was at hospice at the time, and we went to visit her at hospice. And then that night, she came to my dream, visited me, and I said, "Grandma, you're all better." And she said, "Yes, I am." And then it was the next day that we found out that she had passed. So that those two things were very significant around that time as well. And then in my later teenage years, I found Sylvia Brown books. So she was a psychic medium, an American psychic medium, and she wrote many books on the subject of spirituality, not just psychic mediumship. And that was when I first learned about spirit guides and the other side and more about angels and things like that. And that was significant because I was brought up in a Jewish and Christian household. So to learn about these other concepts that really spoke to my soul, I was, I just grasped onto them and felt them internally, like strongly. So that's when I knew that that route of spirituality was for me. And it was around that time that I asked to meet my spirit guide in a dream. And a couple weeks later, I did. And that's when I met Jason again in my teenage years. And so that's really what I call spiritual awakening number one. When I learned about the other side and really became fascinated by it, kept going back to the local bookstore to buy more of her books because there wasn't the internet like it is now. There wasn't YouTube. There was no social media, no Google. So I, would go to the bookstore, and that's where I would read up about her. And then, there was the point in time where I had to human, and I, finished college and got married and had children and bought a house with my husband and all this wonderful stuff that set me up and, got my nursing job and everything like that. And then in 2019, late 2019, early 2020, I had what I call spiritual awakening number two, where I started to work much closer with my guides and even my angels and just members of my soul team that we all have access to, but working really closely with my guides and actually communicating with them and being the medium and communicating for others with their guides and even past loved ones and learning energy healing and all these things that happen quick, quick, quick. That's when I started to write my book and all these wonderful things happen. I started to, go on summits and podcasts and everything. So it was just like spearheaded really quick. And so, a lot of that I really credit to my intuition and learning to hone in on my intuition. And to me, intuition is the way that we communicate with our members on our soul team on the other side. It's just a way for them to use our physical faculties to give us messages because we are such physical beings as humans. And so learning to hone in my intuition, I did that by meditating. I actually wasn't meditating before. I would pray, but I would never listen and meditate. I was always the one talking. So by meditating, I was really able to rewire things and learn to really focus. And by doing that, clear up some of the clutter in there, at least for times, little bits at a time,
Yeah.
to where I was able to pick up on any messages that would come through. And so because of that, I really started to rely heavily on my intuition in a good way,
Yeah.
and on the relationship that I built with members of my soul team, more specifically my spirit guides. So and that's just been paramount in my everyday, especially now that I have been going through some anxiety that I had never experienced before in this capacity. I mean, I would be anxious about things or nervous about things. But what happened was a couple of years ago, after my beloved yellow lab buddy passed away, it was almost like the straw that broke the camel's back. And it was soon after that that I started getting these feelings of heart racing, sweaty, hot. I mean, you could almost think like, I don't know, like menopause or like you're like low blood sugar or something. It was just like, what is happening here? And then I would be able to snap out of it, not taking any sugar or still pretty regular, so I know it wasn't menopause, so or perimenopause or anything like that, but or sorry, premenopause, but something else was going on. And I I I would get that intermittently. And it was interesting because my mind was, well, gosh, I've had these spiritual awakenings. I feel very connected to the other side. why can't I not just ask for protection or ask for them to just take this away from me? Why am I experiencing this even now, knowing that, that what I do about spirituality, that, everything happens for a reason, and including panic attacks and all these things. And so it really it caused me to really dive in and explore a bit more as to what was happening, using both Western modalities, so starting therapy and my spiritual modalities, really calling on my angels more specifically when I'm starting to feel one bubble up and asking them to, just begging them to take those feelings away. And so I find that it's actually really important to talk about, because there are so many lovely and amazing things about spirituality that are so happy and loving and fantastic and wonderful. But then there's also this other side of, when you do become spiritual, you do realize that it's more than just the happy, loving things. It's a lot of having to face, they call it the shadow work, right? Like having
Yeah.
to face the shadows, having to face the things that maybe are keeping us energetically stuck with something, or in these cycles of life after life after life of experiencing the same sort of things. So you do have to start to face those things. I feel like it's just a natural part of the process when you want to advance and you want to be better
Yeah.
as a soul, that you do realize that, okay, it's not just all me learning about all these fun things and getting excited when I communicate or I followed my intuition and it led me somewhere good. Now it's also like, okay, uh, why do I feel like I am good everywhere else, but not with this relationship with a certain person? Why is this not working out for me? And so, you start to really look at different parts of your life differently,
Mm.
to include anxiety. So um I mean, it's a work in progress for me now, and I still work very closely with my guides and my angels, and I still feel that they're there, and I still trust that they're there, and I know that what I'm going through is something that I need to go through, whether it's just so I can sit here right now and help somebody else who's going through it, or something, more than that. So, but I want to let people know, and I've actually done an episode on this on my podcast too, that just because you're spiritually awakened doesn't mean you're immune to anything like this. You just process it differently. You maybe um, work through it differently, and just have a different perspective about it. So here
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you that you can be sailing along quite great, and then something will literally come along, and you're like, oh, it's like, wh- where has where's that come from? You're like,
Yep.
and as you said, you kind of like, if you've been working with spirit and angels and everything like that, you kind of like go, okay, right, obviously this is the reason why this has happened. What the reason is, I have no idea at the time. I need to sit with this. I need to trust that everything is going as it should be. And again, taking the time to meditate and try and connect, although that can sometimes be difficult as well. Because I don't know if you found it, because I've gone through something recently as well, and I found it was, I try and sit there and meditate and connect, but because whatever it is so prevalent there, it feels like I'm not getting the help and the guidance. And that if
Sure.
I am getting something, it's what I'm making up.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I That's why I like guided meditations versus just sitting in silence,
Yeah.
because I feel like it gives me a task, and that, because otherwise I probably would just sit there and just fester in those thoughts of anxiety and worry that I'm going to start to feel those physical symptoms again, and just really get into that headspace. So for me, the guided meditations help. I also think too, if somebody's in that
Oh, we just lost Laura for a second, so we'll wait for her to come back. We did wonder whether the internet would be playing up a little bit today.
crafty.
Oh, back. Hey, you're back
I'm back.
again.
Do you hear
You're
me?
back. I can
Okay.
now.
Where
Yes.
did we where did you you might lose me
Um,
again because my Wi-Fi kicked in again. Oh gosh.
I know.
So
That's the way it goes. Anyone watching, can you actually remember where we were when that happened? We were
I think
talking
we're talking about meditating and how
guided
maybe, well, it's okay.
meditation.
Yes, guided meditations. It gives your brain a task because sometimes just sitting there in silence, you could just start to think of all the things that are a problem for you. So, if sitting in silence or meditation just doesn't do it for you, there's always like going on a walk or drawing or dancing, like other forms of meditation where maybe if you're doing something, it helps as well. But meditation is definitely a great tool. Now, I do have to caveat, like even though I'm a registered nurse, um, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, or I'm not that kind of nurse. So I can't really give that sort of professional advice. You should definitely talk to your
Yeah.
doctor, or a therapist. But from what I have learned on my journey so far, and just from being a nurse in general, and meditation, any form of it, you can be moving. Even you don't have to sit in silence because it doesn't work for everybody. And because of that, you don't want to think, well, it's not for me. Then it's not true. So there's just other forms of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely are. I love guided meditations. As you know, I
Yes.
create guided meditations.
Yeah.
To me, they are absolutely the best one. Most wonderful thing in the world. But yeah, again, it can just be walking in nature, can't it? It can just even though those few deep breaths can kind of like help you. As well. And I think that's why those colouring books that came in were quite handy because you're kind of like having to think, need to get inside
Yeah.
that line. I don't want to be going outside that line.
Yeah,
Well,
those adult coloring books.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
then that gives you another anxiety of, oh my God, I've gone outside the lines. Maybe not so much.
Yeah,
Not if
yeah.
you're a perfectionist. Then anyway,
Yeah,
what?
don't.
Yeah, whatsoever. So so we've talked about the guide meditation, but also using your intuition and connecting with angels and spirits, to help you through any things that you're going through. But what happens if you're one of those people that go, well, yeah, it's great and easy saying that, but I've got no intuition whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that so everybody does, because everybody is a soul and everybody has guides and angels that work solely with them. I think that for those who don't feel like they have an intuition, they probably just don't recognize it as being intuition. Because for some people, as I mentioned, spirit likes to use our physical faculties because we're such physical beings. And so a lot of times you're going to hear people say, "Oh, I just had a gut feeling," or "I just had a sudden knowing," or "I just can feel it in my heart that that was the right answer." But other people, and I've learned this just from hosting other people and having guests on my show, some people will get like a tingling on their ear, and
Yeah,
that's like a sensation. But who would even think that, So, and it could be subtle as well. And I think it really takes practice to recognize it. Um, but but is but do you have to? I mean, if you're already saying things like, I just, it felt right, so that's why I did it. I mean, if you're already saying stuff like that, does it really matter what it's called? No, as long as you're doing things out of love and trying to do the right thing, then it doesn't really matter what you call it. Um, we use the word intuition a lot in the spiritual world, I think because it's such an important component, and it's maybe the best way to explain what it is that we're feeling and what it is that's
happening because people know the word intuition.
Yeah.
Just like being called a psychic medium, everybody knows or have an idea of what that is. So, that's why somebody who just connects to the other side, they're a psychic medium, because that's an easy label for people to recognize. So I think intuition is very similar to that. And again, it's not for everybody too. If for some of us who are here doing this work, it's part of our journey to hone in on that intuition, if that's what we want to call it, and work with the other side and connect and be the messenger and be the medium. And for other people, that's not part of their journey. And so, if they want to call it something else or not, then they can. But for those who want it to be a part of their journey, you're already on the right track, because if you're here listening to this and you just want to know, well, do I have intuition? I want intuition. I mean, if you're even here as an audience member of Raise, then you're already following your intuition because you're here. So, I mean, you're already way ahead of the game, more so than you may realize. But I think that it can take some time to really figure out what it is that is your intuition, if that's what you want to hone in on. And what Jason is just now telling me is my guide is that even if you're just recording yourself, even if it's just your voice or recording, this is kind of maybe a practical way to learn. But talk about your intuition, talk about what you want it to be like, and see what words you say. If you talk about your intuition and you say things like, I want to feel my intuition like this, or I want to see my intuition like this, or I want to hear my intuition, pick up on what words you're using and let that be a clue as to how intuition does come in for you. Or if you can think of a time where you either just knew something or just you did something you don't know why, how would you describe that situation? Would you describe it as, I just knew to do it, or I just had a feeling to do it? See how you describe that. And that's will be a big clue as to how intuition works for you. I use that example when I explain mediumship to people, and the different, we call them clairs, the different ways that spirit sends messages. And if you find that you're saying a lot like, I'm seeing this or I'm hearing this, that's a clue of maybe how spirit is using your physical faculties. And if you're clairvoyant, clairaudient, So same thing with learning about your intuition. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, yeah, and that is a brilliant explanation of of how it does. Mine is literally knowing. Is whatever comes out of my mouth is basically the intuition, the guidance that I'm giving out, or
Yep.
I'm being given, because that's how it works with me.
Mhm.
But again, and other people, that'll go, oh yeah, every time I see, I don't know, um, a robin, um, I know that I'm going to bump into somebody I know.
Oh, that's yeah, that one's cool.
Yeah, but again, it is recognizing what signs, what ways you see, hear, experience things. I always know if my dad's about, because a certain song will always come on. That song will come on randomly, and it'll be like, oh, my dad's come here, wonder what he wants to share with me.
Yeah,
So it is kind of like just seeing what resonates with you. I, th- I,
yeah.
I, I think most, and if anyone out there's got any questions, please do say hello. Pale Green Thoughts, Evelyn Savella is here,
Evelyn, yay.
Melissa, Jackie, and that's who's up in Pitlochry.
Oh, what
It's
if
all
your
right,
ears
Jackie.
were burning?
We were talking about snow. Um,
Yeah.
Elaine's here, who says good evening, and
Oh, hi.
Carlton Kemmerer basically reminded us we were talking about guided meditation when you suddenly
Thank you.
disappeared. So thank you so much
Thank you
for
for keeping us on track.
yeah, keeping us definitely on track. So With the spirituality and anxiety, how is your anxiety going now? Are you do you
Mm.
feel you're through it? Are you still going through it? Does it come into the tail end?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually feel like I'm in the throes of it right now. Right now, I'm fine. Um, but since I started therapy with a therapist, like Western, um, I've had two sessions so far, and what's interesting is that I have had more bouts of anxiety attacks since. And I talked to her about that. And what she said was it's because we're talking about a lot of things that maybe I hadn't thought of in a while. And so things are bubbling up to the surface. And so I've actually been getting them much more frequently than I had in the past. But I think to me that means okay, I'm dealing with it.
Yeah.
So it's good. Yeah, it's good. But uh, but yeah, that's been interesting. And so I would say in the last few weeks, they've definitely have increased those episodes. I guess that's all I can call it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's the way things is. As soon as we
Mm.
start addressing these issues,
Yeah.
they sort of like come up more because it's kind of like, yes, they've recognised it. We can start clearing that now. We can start working through it. We don't have to hide anymore.
Oh, I hope so.
and, that, and of course, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world at the moment as well, and with the old order crumbling and this and that, and again, that's hyping up people's anxiety. All the different
Sure.
energies coming in again is ramping up people's anxieties, and stuff is coming up. Now for people, and yeah, it
Mm.
is a case of connecting with your inner self, and if you feel you need to speaking to a doctor and going to see a therapist. um
Yeah. Yeah.
and there are some amazing therapists out there, um and that, so if you were to sort of like say to somebody who's kind of like, okay, I want to, you know, work on my spirituality, but I've got the anxiety going on as well. Can I still be working on that, or should I just concentrate on the anxiety? Should I be thinking about doing all this spiritual stuff, or just concentrate on one, or can I do it together? Um, how would you sort of like say to somebody who felt like that?
Yeah. Well, I would first say with the caveat that, of course, every individual is so different. So it really is case by case. But in general, I do see the benefits of working on both if it feels good to do so. If you're at a point where you're like, just the spiritual stuff just doesn't interest me right now, I just want to be grounded, then be grounded. Like follow what feels good. But if you really feel the urge and want to do the spiritual stuff, know that's your intuition and that you should go ahead and do both, with what you feel guided to do. I think a good example as well is that I have funny enough, so when you're in the midst of like a panic attack or an anxiety attack, you're in very fight or flight mode. And so some of those rational thoughts of um okay, okay, like I'm safe, or I just need to protect or call my angels, like those things will come, but it may not always be the first thing that you think of. The first thing you think of is like, where do I go to, how do I stop this?
Yeah.
Right? So but if you, what I've started doing, what I'm getting with that is that I just now remembered, even though this has been going on for a couple of years, that oh yeah, I can try protecting myself with an energetic bubble. Maybe some of what was happening, I want to make sure and rule out that I'm not picking up energy and making it my own, and picking up on whether it's energy from another person or energy like an imprinted energy, like I walked through a space and I picked up on whatever crazy event happened there and it's like affecting me. So to rule that out as a possibility, yeah, I need to protect myself with the bubble. And if I'm still feeling that way, okay, then it's me and it's something that I need to deal with. And it's something that I'm meant to go through. But if it's not something I meant to go through and I do the protective bubble and it goes away, great. So I think that there are wonderful modalities that can be learned from both spiritual and Western, I guess, just to make it easy to label the two, so that you have more tools in your tool belt, if that's something that you want. So meditation is one thing. And I will say, that's something even my therapist was really excited to hear when I told her, okay, I meditate, try to meditate more, but I meditate. And so she was like, that's great. Like focusing on my breathing. She's like, you're already ahead of the game. So, there's a really great benefit of blending the two to make them work in your favor. And even just if the spiritual stuff is all new to you, just starting with meditating, and again, guided meditations. I love the Calm app. I'm sure Ray's got some great guided meditations on here too that are useful as well. So finding a guided meditation somewhere and starting there, it could be short, it could be long, however you want, and just using the tools together. Let them complement each other if it feels right.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point there, about, is it your anxiety or is it somebody else's anxiety or a collective anxiety that you're actually picking up on? So yeah,
Yeah.
putting some kind of bubble, cloak, or something around you,
Mhm.
protecting you from from outside energies. Yeah, it's a good way of knowing whether it is your own stuff or whether it is stuff you've been picking up. So that's a really good really good reminder. And Carlton says, speaking of anxiety, if someone tries to get me to dance, I'd rather cut off both arms, both legs, and sit in a corner and bleed out rather than get on the dance floor. Yeah,
You're gonna
that's
protect yourself.
extreme. Yeah, definitely. I don't want anyone coming
That's his
towards me to
boundary.
dance.
That's his boundary.
Exactly. But again, it's setting in boundaries as well, isn't it? I
Yes.
think,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
with that. So have you noticed that you've put boundaries in yourself?
Oh yeah, I've had to. Um, it's that fine line between um it'd be so easy for me to stay home and not deal with anything. Like for instance, yesterday I took my daughters to the mall, and I noticed we stopped at this kiosk in the center of the mall, and I started to feel that feeling, and I'm like, nope, nope, I'm not doing this now. Um, but that's, I can either say I'm not going back to the mall, or I'm not going to go out again because I don't want that to happen, or do I have to continue living my life? So there's that fine line of that boundary where you kind of have to know when you need to keep trying to move forward, or if you need to take a break. And then there are relationship boundaries with people, boundaries of what I'm comfortable talking with and talking about and not. And, just while I'm healing and while I'm learning the tools to be able to, effectively live with this. So, until then, I do need to, um, for my own, I don't know, treatment, or for my own, healing, I do need to create those boundaries. And it could be hard if one of the reasons why, you in general are seeing a therapist is because you can't say no to people. That could be really hard. And that's something that I know that is hard, can be hard for me too. But I feel like as I get older and as I start to, I don't know, have more experiences in life, I can see how it's easier to say no. And a lot of people, especially for me, because I have a lot of people who are very spiritual, and a lot of friends in my life that are like you, Ray. So, who really understand that if I say, like, I'm in this space that I need to be by myself, there's, people really honor that and they really understand that. And I think that it's one of those things where may not realize how understanding people actually are if you say no in a certain way. Obviously, there's a way to say it that's not very kind and harder for them to accept. But anyways, yeah. So boundaries are really important, but also learning that fine line of where your boundaries should be and where they shouldn't, so that you're not really enabling yourself to just be a recluse or stay inside, but still trying to live life and push through. It's finding that fine line. Could be hard.
Yeah, yeah, it can be. And again, it's also if you're using spiritual gifts and stuff, it's kind of like, okay, maybe today's not the day for me to use it. Maybe today's the day
Yeah.
where, I'm just going to spend it with me.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh yeah.
And yeah. And Carlton has said, no disrespect intended, but I'm curious, why not attribute anxiety and such to just being a state of mind, which in turn is a state of the brain? Why invoke spirits, angels, and the like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, I know that a lot of what I'm feeling is psychosomatic. I know that I am always in a safe space when this occurs, and that it's actually it's a nervous system response, more specifically like a polyvagal system, and my dorsal nerve gets reactive, and then it just kind of puts me in the fight or flight. So I know that it's a psychosomatic thing. It's like one time it's happened and now I'm worried it's going to happen again, and even a little bit of that thought bubbles it up. So that part I know is very much physical, because I'm always in a safe space when this happens. But what happens is if I get to that point where I have a hard time taking control of the physical symptoms that occur, then I need a little extra help. That's when I ask for my guides and my angels to help me to get through this, to help me to take those symptoms away, and to help me get through whatever it is that I'm going through when it gets to the point, or when I feel like it's starting to bubble up. So that's what the help is. It's almost like when people pray to God or Jesus. Same thing. I'll ask Jesus to come and help me too. It's the same if you're just in that state of like God help me, please. But sometimes we ask for angels to do that, or we ask for our guides to do that. So same thing if we're just in a position where it's starting to become a little bit out of our control. No matter how much we rationally know we're safe and everything's okay, we just need that little extra help. And it's not really something that I need to go to the hospital for, or need medication for. I always am able to get out of it, but sometimes just need a little extra help. And so that's why I call on spirit to help with that. That's a
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question,
Yeah.
Carlton. So thank you so much for asking that,
Yeah.
because it is, angel, spirit, guides, etc., are there to help and assist us if we ask.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and Carlton says, "Thank you for the response. Love to ask more, but I don't want to derail the conversation." Thank
Thank you.
you, Carlton. If you are if you do have another question that you want to ask, or if anyone has got any questions that they want to ask, now is the time to actually do it. And whilst we wait and see whether anyone does, as you know, I do guided meditations and angel oracle cards, and each week I like to ask my guests what they would like me to do for themselves and those watching. So Laura, would you like me to do an angel oracle card or do a mini guided meditation?
Oracle card, please.
Okay. Funny enough, in my hand as we speak. So,
and it's funny. I know we've been talking a lot about guided meditations, but Oracle card feels good right now.
yeah. I can do guided meditations really, really quickly. But what does Lauren and everyone who's watching this need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? What does Laura and everyone watching this need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? Okay, we'll go with that one. Perfect. We have got begin now, take your first step. Which is,
I hear you. Thank you.
yeah, which basically is, to everyone, watching now, the card is saying, begin now. Take that first step, no matter what is going on in your life at the moment. You can get through it. There is help there, but you just need to take one step, a little baby step, because that baby step will then lead you on to another step, and which will then lead you on to another step, which will then lead you on to another step. So yeah, so always, so they're saying, take that first step, no matter what's going on in your life. You don't have to do it all at once. Just take that one little step at a time. So I think that's absolutely brilliant that card's actually come out.
Yeah.
For you and for those watching. And Evelyn says, thank you, Laura, nice to see you.
Oh, you too.
Yeah, thank you, Evelyn, for joining the show today. It's been absolutely brilliant having you there. So Laura, do you have any insights or thoughts or last words of wisdom to leave our viewers?
Yeah, what I'm being told is, it's so important to give yourself grace and allow yourself the time to heal. We're in such a society where we have FOMO, so fear of missing out, right? And things are moving so fast with social media. And sometimes it feels good to step away from that, not be posting, not be scrolling, not be engaging, and just allow yourself to be. And so to give yourself that grace to do so when it feels right. And because that just means something great is coming. So
Yeah,
honor yourself.
Beautiful words and a good reminder for us all. So I hope everyone you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful, because I know I definitely have. So Laura, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
Yes, I have
Oh, she's frozen on
my podcast is on there too, Instagram at a Guided Life Podcast. I have a link tree that I think I gave you because I don't remember what that one is. And then I'm on Facebook as well, Guided West 11, I believe. Yeah, so those would be the places. And then the link tree has everything, including my website, which is just laurawest.net.
Yeah, and what I will do is after the show's finished, in the comments I will put all the links to all of these, so you can just literally click on it and speak to Laura or connect with Laura. So thank you so much, Laura, for sharing your wisdom. It's been absolutely brilliant. And thank you to everyone who's joined in for the show today and said hello, took the time to comment. And thank you so much, Colton, for your questions. Because you do make the show and you give us topics, and things to talk about. And it gets us thinking as well when we answer them. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And of course, if you are now ready to remember your divine presence and step onto your spiritual multidimensional path, but you feel lost, confused, stuck, or alone, then please feel free to connect with me, and we can arrange to see where you are now and how you can move forward on your journey to take charge of your destiny so that you can spread your wings and soar. And of course, please feel free to join my weekly newsletter and receive a free future life progression recording where I take you into a future lifetime to get guidance and clarity that you can actually use in your current life, as well as maybe a couple of other free gifts. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost, suffering from anxiety, and want to get clear on their destiny just like you, and could really do with hearing Laura's words of wisdom. And of course, if you've been watching this on YouTube, then please do subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button to be notified when the show goes live or I post a new guide meditation. As each subscription and like and comment really helps with the algorithms, because that's what it's all about today, the algorithms, when I can say that word right. And I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.